This is a story about a resource that ties the West together.
In California, it's going to be probably the critical issue over the next 10 to 12 years.
But at the same time, because this resource is limited, it tears the West apart through old wars and current lawsuits.
My bill was $75, you know? I mean, if I was living on minimum wage, that would be a huge bill.
As far as the price, I think we almost have to have expensive so people will conserve.
I guess it's expensive wherever you move to.
It's a resource that will become even more limited in the future as cities grow, mass agriculture expands, and climate change makes the western United States hotter and drier.
It mystifies me why people think it's just a resource that's just limitless. I mean, it amazes me that people don't think about that.
I'm talking, of course, about water. I'm standing at the edge of Owens Lake. I would be under 10 feet of water right now, except that this basin lake in the Sierra Nevadas has been drained dry. Here in Owens Valley, two massive man-made aqueducts suck water out of both the river and underground aquifers and carry it over 220 miles to the city of Los Angeles. When we picture the West, it's easy to think of its iconic arid deserts, filled with cacti and rocks and not much water. But despite that image, there's a huge disconnect between the shortage of water from the sky and the vast amounts of liquid that seem to be available from our taps, shower head, and garden hose. Do you know where your city gets its water from?
The watershed.
No.
The Truckee River.
Probably a reservoir? I have no idea. I did not pay attention to geology.
Today, all that's left of Owens Lake is a flat alkaline bed crisscrossed by man-made berms and roads. This is where I meet Mike Prather. Mike has been working for the Owens Valley Committee since the early 1980s, trying to protect the integrity of this water system. His main goal has been to restore ecosystem components and raise water table levels by returning water to the lower Owens River. Along the way, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power was required to put some water back into the lake, though not in the way you might expect. We walk across the dry ground to the edge of a shallow, square pond that fills in the space between the raised dirt roads.
Water has been put in here by City of Los Angeles to control any dust that might come up. On the other side, you'll see bubblers. You'll see those vertical risers, about a 2-foot pipe. They have a little brass umbrella on the top. And the water...
Bubblers are like low-flow sprinklers that send out a continuous stream of water. Water which is diverted from the aqueducts, which divert the water from Owens River upstream. The bubblers wet the lake bed surface just enough to keep mineral-laden dust storms under control. Because once depleted of the natural cycle of water, this valley ecosystem quickly turned toxic for both people and wildlife. The dust isn't in the air anymore, but still, there's hardly enough water here to call this a lake. The big fight, however, has been making the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power honor a contract to put water back into Lower Owens River, an ecosystem with more restoration potential than the lake. The Owens Valley Committee finally won their lawsuit after a city official was caught saying that Los Angeles profited well by delaying water in the river. Due to strict fines of $5,000 a day, the river finally ran in July 2007, after more than 20 years of work on the part of Mike and many other dedicated people.
Realizing there's a city of almost 4 million people, and that you're talking about possibly turning down their water is really a big consideration. We're not looking for more water, we're looking for keeping as much of it here as we can.
By legal terms, this is an environmental success story, especially when it comes to Western water wars. Mike looks across the square pools of Owens Lake, part of the culmination of work started, as he puts it, before he turned gray. I can't help thinking, this is a success? He points out the migrating birds that are returning to the valley, drawn by brine flies that thrive in this artificial replacement of the natural habitat.
What did you say the killdeer were?
2 of them right over here. A lot of people say that water's just going to waste out there. Well, is the Yellowstone River going through Yellowstone Park? Is that water going to waste? I mean, I just don't buy that. Water going for wildlife or something like that is not a waste. You can talk about how much. You can have a conversation about that. But you can't start with the concept of it being a waste, because that means they're saying zero.
It's easy to see Owens Lake as an exaggerated example of interbasin water exchange. But water travels hundreds of miles from the Colorado River to the agricultural fields of the San Joaquin Valley, and just as many miles to fuel Las Vegas. Many rivers in the West no longer reach their historical outlet. Water crisscrosses the West to get to the destinations we deem important, and the aqueducts and canals that provide the transportation didn't just build themselves. Tons of concrete, billions of dollars, and thousands of man-hours have been put into the West through the Bureau of Reclamation. These projects aim to reclaim water from where it would be wasted, flowing through rivers and sitting in lakes, and put it to better use in cities and agriculture. The resulting maze of waterways and water rights is not only confusing, but it's detrimental. We've set up a system that is self-defeating. We've over-allocated watersheds, ruined ecosystems, and pushed water so far that quality suffers. Do you drink the tap water here?
I will if I have to.
No, I filter it.
Bottled water. That's it. I'm not sure I trust it.
I just prefer bottled water.
I don't drink faucet water at home because it's really nasty.
While major developments contribute to these massive diversion projects, it's not productive to tell stories that blame the big bad cities. Los Angeles, for example, has become a leader in water conservation compared to other metropolitan areas through low-flow toilets and building codes. Despite those efforts, however, Owens Lake is still desolate, a dry, flat, toxic plain. Whether conserving or not, the average consumer doesn't know where their water comes from. Perhaps this is why we overuse. We're not aware of our place in this massive water system we've created.
We're in a world of hurt in the West, actually. All cities have a lot more to do.
So, say you actually know where your water comes from, and you're not happy with how far it's traveled, or the quality of it, or that the alternative to a poorly funded municipal system is buying bottled water with all its processing and petrochemicals. Where does that leave you? Unfortunately, no better off than when you didn't know about your water. The big dilemma with this issue is that unlike localizing food, most people in the West can't drill a well in their backyard. So, we're left in a tricky position. Neither being blissfully ignorant of our water source, nor frustratingly aware is a good solution. It's hard to see what average consumers can do to actually change the problem at the source, instead of at the tap. Until a major water shortage forces an infrastructure change, perhaps the best we can do is find out where our water treatment plants are, support zoning laws that restrict development in the desert, put in faucet aerators, and take showers hoping that, when a crisis comes, we have enough time to untangle our water transportation mess.
And what's the water like here?
I think it's good water.
Yeah?
Yeah, as far as drinking water, or...
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Uh-huh.
Why, do we have a problem with water?
For National Public Lands Radio, I'm Elena Gustafson.